Hello, welcome to Live Talk for Tuesday, November 14th, 2017. I'm Mark Crutcher.
And I'm Renee Hobbs. I'm glad you're with us today.
Thanks for joining us. Renee, we had a pretty interesting and I think really neat event here this last Saturday
Yes.
up in St. Louis. For people that don't know, COGIC, which stands for Church of God in Christ, is the largest African American denomination in America. And they had an event in St. Louis, an annual convention that they have. And apparently about 10,000 people attended. And we've been, over the last couple of years, I'd say, 2 or 3 years, we've been creating a closer relationship with them. Just to give a little background, they have bishops in their hierarchy, and one of their bishops was a man that was named Matthews, Bishop Matthews, and he was in Africa when we first started our relationship with them. And he actually asked to be reassigned back to the United States, and eventually was reassigned back to the United States. And he told me mainly because of this issue. He saw Mafia 21, and he said, I got on fire for this issue. And COGIC has already bought over 2,000 Mafias from us, distribute to their people. They've had showings, they've had viewings, they've really been pushing it. But apparently this weekend, it went to a whole new level, from what I can gather. And we have somebody joining us that's an old friend of Life Talks that's been with us many times in the past, Catherine Davis from Stone Mountain, Georgia. Hello, Catherine.
Hi, Catherine.
Hi, how y'all doing?
Doing great.
We're doing fine. How are you doing?
I am wonderful.
Great.
Wonderful.
Now, you were at this event, even though you don't belong to the Church of God in Christ. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Right. But you were at this event. I think you attend their events because of relationships you have with some of their people. Tell us what happened there. It sounded like it was a pretty interesting situation.
It was probably, in my estimation, one of the most historic things that I've done. Bishop Vincent Matthews is leading the Family Life campaign. And that campaign, as you were mentioning earlier, is their outreach on the life issue and their willingness to adopt children, whether they're slated for abortion or in foster care, and to partner with pregnancy centers where they are located. But at this convocation, when Bishop Matthews realized that what's considered the most deadly Planned Parenthood in the country was right there in St. Louis where they were having the convocation, he decided that he was going to take a team of bishops, pastors, and ministry leaders out to a prayer vigil in front of that Planned Parenthood. And for this first effort out, he wanted a very controlled number. So he was only looking to get about 30 to 50 of the bishops and pastors to come out. But when we got there, the numbers swelled to probably close to 60 bishops, pastors, and jurisdictional leaders, including the jurisdictional leader for Missouri. And we spent about an hour and a half out in front of that Planned Parenthood, and it was one of the most compelling things that we've ever done. And it got pretty strong at points, like there was a man escorting his girlfriend or wife or whatever into the abortion center, and Bishop Matthews and Reverend Dean Nelson began to challenge that man, and they were saying to him, bruh, man up, don't take your woman in there to kill your baby, man up, be a man, take care of your child. I mean, it was terrific, and when they were saying that, you felt it in your heart, what they were saying, to the point that the man actually turned around and looked at them to see, well, who are you and what are you saying? And they had on their bishop regalia so that you knew this wasn't your average run-of-the-mill person standing out there. These were men of authority and leadership, and it's just fantastic.
Wow.
For many of them, was this their first time out there? I know it was Bishop Matthews' first time, but was it for the other bishops and leaders, pastors?
Not for some of them. Some of them, like Bishop Wooten from Raleigh, North Carolina, he has a team that goes out from his church on a regular basis. There was a bishop there from North Dakota, and he had worked with the pro-life movement in the past, and in fact, they were able to shut down an abortion center on one of the reservations there in North Dakota. But for the most part, most of them, it was their first time.
That's awesome. That's good news. Yeah, this the Planned Parenthood in St. Louis, it's a pretty rotten one. That many women have had botched abortions with this center, over 65 that we know of.
Right.
I believe the count was 67, and so many health violations.
Yep, it's a bad.
Way too many to
Even by Planned Parenthood's abysmally low standards, these people are pretty bad. But Catherine, you were telling me that this was the first time Bishop Matthews had actually been to one of the killing centers, and that he was very, very affected by this. And you told me he really ratcheted up his commitment to the pro-life cause after this event.
That's correct. He had not been in front of an abortion center before. And this time, he was so impacted by it that he is planning to continue this effort with the Church of God in Christ, so that there is always a Church of God in Christ presence in front of one of the abortion centers. And he is committed to making sure that their leadership is engaged. I mean, it really impacted him. It tremendously impacted him. And as I said, we will see more of them going in front of a Planned Parenthood.
Well,
we'll see it again.
you also called me yesterday, or they had you call me. They're in the process now, going to buy several thousand more MAFAs.
That's correct.
To distribute.
Because they see the urgency of the need. You know, Mark, it's one thing when we talk about what's happening inside of an abortion center, but it's another thing when you get to see it for yourself.
That's exactly what I was about to bring up. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, it takes it out of the discussion realm and puts it into the reality realm for you.
Yeah, because
and I think that's what happened for many of those that were out there on Saturday. This was their first time seeing what's happening and seeing the trail of women going into those centers, and it was empowering for them.
yeah, you see the women going in pregnant and coming out holding their stomachs and crying, or being let out by an employee or a boyfriend, husband, whoever. It's heartbreaking.
It's over.
Heartbreaking. It is. And to think that Planned Parenthood tweeted out on Halloween that to black women in particular, that it's safer for you to abort your baby than carry your baby to term. Where are they getting that?
And as
you know,
if
their
why?
targeting has become so bold,
Yeah.
you know, that they will just come out and say it. Come in here and kill your children because it's better for you.
Exactly. And as if white women and black women have different wombs here. We all have the
Right.
same body parts.
Right.
Exactly.
Give me a break.
Exactly. So why is it more deadly for black women than any woman? It's because they are targeting black women, and they're using this to fulfill the Negro Project. Well, Bishop Matthews said very clearly that the Church of God in Christ will not be a Negro Project denomination. He said it.
And that's why that they've placed the majority of the Planned Parenthoods in low-income areas. They're targeting the black community.
They know exactly what.
Absolutely.
They know exactly what they're doing. Exactly.
Yes.
And,
And you can see it. I just came across an Amici brief that was filed by Black Mamas Matter. What in the world is that? And they are fighting against Texas, where you guys are, to say that black women's maternal health is worse than other women's health in the United States, and especially in Texas. They are perpetuating a lie to lure black women into those centers, and they don't talk about the women that are dying, like Tanya or Cree or Edrica or any of Diana Rodriguez. I mean, you guys have a whole
right.
memorial to the women that have died, so they don't say anything about them,
Well, nobody's talking. You mentioned Tanya Reeves just a moment ago. We need to make a distinction between Tanya Reeves and a lot of these others. A lot of the others were just botched abortions where they didn't know what they were doing and screwed up and killed somebody. In the case of Tanya Reeves was murdered by Planned Parenthood. She did not die. She did not die as a result of an accident. It was not medical malpractice. It was not negligence. It was none of those things. It was murder. It happened in Illinois, and if you read the statute, the Illinois statute is similar to the other states, called depraved indifference murder. They perforated this young lady's uterus, which is bad, but it's rarely fatal. But they perforated her uterus, but because they'd had an ambulance call so many times in front of this abortion clinic, they didn't want to call 911. So they rolled her out into the hallway and packed her off, and they continued to walk around her all day. They continued to do abortions while she was bleeding, and she finally bled out and bled to death. That is what's called in Illinois depraved indifference murder, and it is an obscenity that Planned Parenthood and the white female abortionists that did this to her, these people never got charged. This woman is not sitting in prison right now, which is where she should be. None of that's going on. And, you have all of these people like the Jesse Jacksons and the Al Sharptons talk about the injustices that go on. Where were they when Tanya Reeves was murdered in cold blood in that abortion clinic? Where were they?
They hid under a rock.
Right.
Well, they don't speak for all us black people. They speak for themselves. And there are those that are among us that have been speaking out for a while now. You've had many of us on the program that are telling the truth and shaming the devil, so to speak. And we're going to continue doing it. And it is amazing to me to have a man like Bishop Vincent Matthews who went to Bishop Blake and got the full commitment of that 6 million member denomination to stand with us in this pro-life fight now. And that's new. That's something that we haven't seen in the denomination before. But I believe as a result of what happened on Saturday, we are going to begin to see more and more taking a stand, absent Jesse and Al and the usual crew who are so indebted to Planned Parenthood because they are taking the payments. You guys know the Negro Project almost better than me. And they are the Negro Project personified.
Yep.
And so we don't need to rely on what they say anymore. It's going to be men like Bishop Matthews and others in the black community that are now standing up and saying, okay, no further.
Well,
no further. Enough.
I'm going to say something to you, Catherine, that you've heard me say before, and I've said it to you before. When the day comes that the African American community gets fully involved in this and stands up against this black genocide of legalized abortion in America, this battle is over. We win at that very moment. The abortion industry cannot stand up against that sort of pressure, the pressure that the current pro-life movement's bringing on them, and then the influx that we're seeing of African Americans coming into the pro-life movement is overwhelming. And Planned Parenthood and the rest of them cannot stand up against that, and they know it, by the way.
Well, I think, Mark, then, based on what you're saying, we saw those like me, men of influence in the largest denomination in our nation, who came out there and saw for themselves what is going on. And I think that it's the beginning of the end. And I think 2018 is the year that we are going to see not only Planned Parenthood get shut down, but abortion in the nation shut down, because it is hurting women. And we know it, and we've been saying it for years, and still our voices have been drowned out because Planned Parenthood had $500 million of our dollars to pay the media and pay voices to drown us out. Well, the grassroots is here. We're going to come from the bottom up, and it's a new day.
Yes,
and I think Saturday was the beginning of that.
I think you're exactly right. We just pray that that's true. Well, Catherine, I want to tell you how much I appreciate you guys out on the field doing the work that we can't do here. You know, we try to provide the tools and so forth, like MyAFA and some of the other things, some of the research that we've done, where we documented beyond a shadow of a doubt that they are targeting the black community with our list that we put out, the redlining, basically, where they're putting all the abortion clinics. And so we put the tools out there, but we can't be everywhere like you guys can. And I really appreciate you guys doing what you're doing. And I think you may be right that we've known since day one, Catherine, when we first started doing MyAFA, before we'd ever actually put it out, we had a meeting here in Dallas of a bunch of black leaders, Johnny Hunter and some others. And I was told at the time that MyAFA would simmer below the surface for a number of years in the black community. But then at some point, some things would start to happen that would cause it to explode above the surface. And this may be the event. You know, we estimated in the beginning that we'd be able to put out maybe 10,000 MyAFAs. We thought that would be a success if we could get 10,000 MyAFAs out into the public. So far, we're over 225,000. So it's.
I was going to say, because I know I got 5,000 of them.
Yeah, right.
Well, thank you.
Do you remember I did that outreach with the barbers and the hairdressers?
Yes, ma'am.
The second most influential group in the African American community, and we took MyAFAs to a hair show, the Bronner Brothers Hair Show, the largest trade show for barbers, black barbers and nail technicians and stylists in the country. And we gave them out. I wish I'd had more volunteers with me, because we could have probably doubled, tripled the number that we were actually able to give out. But MyAFA is and was cutting edge. And it is extremely well done, to the point that today I don't even need to repeat the history of the Negro Project. I simply hand them a MyAFA and say, watch this, and then let me tell you what's happening now.
Wow.
You know?
That's great.
So you're exactly right. And I think that as we continue distributing the video and continue doing the outreach, we're going to see something happen. I can feel it in the air, Mark. I don't know if you can feel it, but I can feel it in the air. We're at the beginning of the end.
I can too.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Renee and I have talked about this many times. There's just something that's going on. God's doing something right now.
Yes.
That I've been at this over 35 years, and I've never seen a time like what we have right now. I just wrote a letter that's going to be going out, and I said, this is our moment, in that letter. And I think it's right. I think we've been preparing for this moment all our lives, and here we are.
Yes,
and
here we are.
And it's an exciting...
And we have to be prepared, because it's happening quickly.
Yes.
You know, we have to be on the top of our game, because it's happening quickly. We are seeing things happen. I mean, who would have thought, if you had asked me last year this time whether there would be one bishop, much less many bishops that would go in front of a Planned Parenthood, I would have shook my head and said, look, we're just not there yet. We're working on it. We're not there. But it happened.
Yeah.
And it's happening. So I say put your roller skates on and let's do this.
Put your-
You know,
Well,
we're going to make a difference.
this can
And-
definitely.
and-
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, just that we're going to make a difference, and it's happening now.
Right.
Yes, ma'am. This can be our prayer, the beginning of the end.
It's beginning of the end.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. Yep. God, you said a year ago it wasn't our time. Well, you don't know when it's our time. God the only one that knows that. I don't know it. You don't know it. But when he decides to move, there's not a force in the universe that can stop him. So
That can stop it. That's right.
that's where we
That's
are.
right.
Well, thank you for joining us today, Catherine, and keep us posted. And I'll be looking to get that order. I think they're going to call back today or tomorrow to order another 3,000 Ma'afas and maybe more. And I think something big I think you're right. Something big is on the horizon.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank
Catherine.
you for having me. Appreciate you much.
Thank you for calling us. Bye-bye.
God bless. Bye-bye.
All right.
Good show.
Cool. Got
Yes,
anything
it
there
is.
we need to talk about?
No, I don't. Just thank you for your show suggestions and your comments and everything that are coming in. Just please be sure you share the show and get this out far and wide so people can hear the pro-life message and things that they hadn't heard anywhere else. But if you have any show suggestions, if you send them our way, we would definitely love to talk about that and even maybe have you on as a guest if you'd like.
Just like Catherine.
Just like Catherine. And so, and if you do that, we'll give you a mug.
So you be sure and send Catherine her mug. She
wonder
probably
if she
already
has
She
one.
probably has one.
Yeah.
I bet she'd take another one.
I bet she would too.
I bet she would too. Anyway, we're out of time. Until next time, remember, Life Dynamics is not here to put up a good fight. We're here to win because winning is how the killing stops.